what would happen was that, like, even after me hearing the audible voice of God, knowing that he's real, having no doubt that he's real, I would get into these moments of like deep desire to want to consume drugs, wanting to do alcohol, or wanting to sleep around. And so what would I do? I would begin to revert back to God doesn't exist. You just were hearing things. It's probably a symptom of like mental illness. Like I would come up with like all these reasons to be like, God doesn't exist, right? So I don't really need to keep going on this path. But what would happen, and it's funny because I would reason, like if like in my mind, like these were like amazing reasons, like like God doesn't exist. There's no way, right? And I would convince myself. What would be the first thing I would do? I would run and get drunk. I would run and sleep with somebody. If this was like, if I was like really reasoning and trying to have like this enlightenment about God not existing, why would I run back to the worst possible things in my life? Hey, what's up? This is Caleb and Esther, and this is officially my first video on this channel. We both have channels in Spanish, and you can check those out below. But we are so excited to bring this topic to you today. Why don't you introduce it?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were in the car the other day and we were just chatting, and then it was so funny because I was telling Caleb, I'm like, why is it that so many of us in the beginning, we kind of like ignore like the baggage? Like, okay, hear me out. Like we all know that we have baggage, right? When we give our lives to the eternal. We know that we're struggling with stuff, you know what I mean? But it's like, but why don't we think about why we did what we did? And then maybe you'll tell me like, okay, I get it. Like, whatever, like I didn't grow up with my mom. I didn't grow up with my dad. I had voids, and that kind of led me into having like relationships, and I was promiscuous, etc.
But I'd say in the beginning, a lot of people don't even get there.
That's what I'm saying. And so that's what I'm saying. The whole point is that we don't get to the root of why we struggle the way that we do. And so we just kind of wanted to hit that topic today.
Yeah, I'd say it's funny because I say in the beginning, I didn't even really think about that. Like I thought of myself as a victim. Yeah. Like I thought of myself like as like, I'm just a victim. Like,
hold up, that's a really good point, though. No, keep going.
No, I was gonna say that's a good point. That's what I felt. I am the victim of my life. Yeah, like in a sense, I was like.
No, but you know what's so funny? I can remember when we first, because I've known him for a minute. Like maybe we'll share a story in English.
Like.
Someday.
A minute is like 16 years.
Yeah. And so you literally, I remember you even talking, you're like, oh, like I grew up like this and nobody loved me and I grew up by myself. And
you too.
No, me too. And like, we literally pointed out everything that everybody did to us.
And that immediately removes responsibility of your actions.
Right.
So it's like, look, I am the way I am. I'm angry, I'm mean, I love to have sex, I love to do drugs, but it's because I had such a rough upbringing.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But how can you take responsibility for anything in your life if you don't start to like, hey, I am the one that am doing these things, and I don't need to include what happened with my dad. In the beginning, like that's what I did. It was like because of my dad, it's because my mom died. And yes, these are all part of it.
Yeah.
But let me put it like this. You can't get caught for stealing or murder and go before the judge and be like, "Oh, it's because I had a hard life." Yeah. Like, no. You need to take responsibility for what you did. And now you can start to look at if you want to change. Yeah. If you want to get at it, if when you get out of jail, you want to live a new life, then you'll start to put that picture together and look at, okay, wow, yes, my dad abandoned me. I have identity issues, and I'm going to start to deal with them. And yes, maybe those are contributing factors to the way I acted. But at the end of the day, I have to take responsibility for how I'm acting.
Yeah. So pretty much when you don't unpack your past, then you get yourself in that, you stay in a victim mentality. And I tell like the women on my channel all the time, I'm like, listen, I get it. Look, if somebody really did commit a crime and somebody had like a really bad childhood, does that childhood maybe like influence their actions in the future? Hell yeah, absolutely. But here's the problem. When you don't heal from your past and you don't unpack your past and you don't deal with the baggage, then you don't change. You stay in a victim mentality and you can't move forward in life.
I was gonna say you're basically living a life of like you're just possessed by this past. Like,
exactly.
Like you're just a victim of your past, and in a sense, this is very tricky because in a sense, yes, like you are a collection of all these things, of all these experiences, but you cannot use that anymore as an excuse for how you're living. And a point that I wanted to touch is that, you know, especially when you come to faith, if you don't begin to deal with the reasons for why you act the way you act, it's very easy for you to become robotic, to become religious. You just change because everybody else is changing. But then you look around and you're like, why am I still struggling so hard with this?
Yeah.
Like, why do I still want to, you know, sleep with this woman so bad? Why do I still have these addictions to pornography, masturbation? Why am I want to consume drugs so bad? And don't get this twisted. I'm not saying that those aren't struggles that you'll have. You will continue to have those struggles. But if you don't get to the root of it, you're going to be so frustrated trying to understand, like, why me? Why this? Why can't I overcome this? You need to start to look inside and understand your history, understand the situations that you went through, and begin to deal with them. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something and I got distracted.
See, this is what happens when
this is a joke all the time.
This is a joke that we say, which is like,
gosh.
Stay away from drugs. When we were younger, we did a lot of stuff that you shouldn't have done, and so sometimes our brain, you know, is kind of like scrambled up.
I literally forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, keep talking, and then
I was basically just saying, like, what happened with me was I come from like a background of like unbelief. Like I didn't believe in God. And then God showed up in my life like in a tremendous way, like where I heard the audible voice of God. I heard the audible voice of God. But I had these bondages. Like I had bondages to alcohol, drugs, smoking weed, and sex. Like those were like the vices. Those were like the things that I ran to help like give me peace, to fix things in my life. If you hear weird things in the background, we have 4 kids. Okay, so they might be like jumping in and out. But what would happen was that like even after me hearing the audible voice of God, knowing that he's real, having no doubt that he's real, I would get into these moments of like deep desire to want to consume drugs, wanting to do alcohol, or wanting to sleep around. And so what would I do? I would begin to revert back to God doesn't exist. You just were hearing things. It's probably a symptom of like mental illness. Like I would come up with like all these reasons to be like, God doesn't exist, right? So I don't really need to keep going on this path. But what would happen, and it's funny because I would reason like if like in my mind, like these were like amazing reasons. Like, yes, yeah, like God doesn't exist. There's no way, right? And I would convince myself. What would be the first thing I would do? I would run and get drunk. I would run and sleep with somebody. If this was like, if I was like really reasoning and trying to have like this enlightenment about God not existing, why would I run back to the worst possible things in my life?
But at that point in your life, you were trying to kind of like, you realized that wasn't really doing anything for you.
Well, I got to that point because the experience that I had with God was so real.
Yeah.
It got to a point where doing these things no longer produced the satisfaction that it used to.
Yeah.
So it's like, I remember having that conversation with myself, like, no, there's no way, this is fake. God doesn't exist. And I remember going and sleeping with somebody and just feeling so incredibly dry. Like if my body, my soul just felt so dry, and it felt so terrible what I had done. like sleeping with this person felt bad. I can't even say it felt like nasty, icky. No, I felt like dry. I felt like I was a desert.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, there's no, like, I felt sucked of life. And I was like, my goodness, the reason why I left God, the pleasure I was trying to get, I'm not pleased.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not pleasured. This isn't working. And so it's like, then I really was like on a balance, putting my life and putting my decisions and like looking and thinking like, wow, you left God, not because you think he doesn't exist and this is like the right thing morally to do. No, you left God because you had this desire to do this thing. And that thing, the reason you left him is not pleasing you.
Yeah.
And that created such a weird situation to be in. You know what I mean? Like the alcohol and the woman didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's when like I was able to make a decision like, yeah, like I'm all in. Like I'm done. Like I can't. I'm all in with you, God. Like I don't know exactly where I'm going. I just know I can't go back. Not because it's not an option, but because I literally came to a place of like, it does not do the thing that I want it to do.
Yeah, and I think
it's like taking a drug, ecstasy or alcohol, right? It's like chugging alcohol and being like, you drank 10 beers and you're not feeling any buzz.
Yeah.
You'd be like, whoa, am I drinking like non-alcoholic beer? Like, what is, like, you know what I'm saying? You'd be like, I don't want to drink this anymore. And that's what happened.
Yeah. And the thing is that we end up getting frustrated with God and we end up getting frustrated with ourselves when we have like certain battles or certain struggles that we have internally and we can't overcome them. But the thing is that I've gone through this so much in my life. There were times where I would revert back to like my really toxic habits because I was angry or I was frustrated with God. I was like, oh, this isn't working. Like, how come you're not healing me? How come you're not listening to me? How come you see that I'm suffering? Like, why don't you respond to me? And one of like the most important things that I've learned from my spiritual mom, that she says it all the time. She's like, people don't want to go through the process. Like when you are literally, if you think about it, you live that way for like 20 something years of your life before actually like giving your life over to God.
No, like at least 23 years.
Right. And I lived like 21 years, like doing whatever I wanted and
no thought of God.
No thought of God.
We didn't think about God, but like, it was like.
Not on like, not on like a personal, intimate level.
You think of God as like he's out there.
Yeah.
Which is so dumb because it's like if he's out there, that means he created everything, which means there's a purpose, which means there's a way he would expect you to live. Not even expect like in the sense of like crush you, but of like if I created this world, if God created this world, then he knows how it operates. Like it would make sense like to go and like read the manual, you know what I mean? Like, or like talk to the person that created the thing and be like, how am I supposed to live in your world? Because this is your creation.
Yeah.
But we're basically like, no, like this is my world. And like, oh, God's up there, but he's just so far and distant.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about it like that.
Well, amen, sister.
But yeah, and so we end up not like actually like being patient with ourselves and with God. And on top of that, we don't want to really put in the responsibility and the work that we need to put in when you're struggling with certain areas of your life. Like there's certain areas where like it says flee from sexual immorality. Okay, well, like you have to deal with that area and you have to literally die to the impulse and the desire. You have to deny yourself. There's really like you have to like work on that area and you have to fight the desire because you have to know every time you give in to the desire, you're going to feel like crap.
Well, here, just on that, I'll tell this quick little story.
Yeah.
One day I was walking out of a store and a woman went by and I was married. This was like 4 years ago. I know. Uncomfortable, but it's the reality of life, right? So this woman, I was coming out of a store, this woman walked by and I checked her out and I felt guilty. I was like, oh, like I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Like I'm married, blah, blah. And like, I promise you this reasoning came in my mind, which was like, at least you didn't sleep. Like you're not sleeping with her. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
But it's not that bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it could be worse. Like you could be trying to get at her, get her phone number. You could be trying to get her to go. You could be trying to go to her house. Like it could be so much worse, right? And I stopped myself and I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound right. Like, just something doesn't feel right about that. And I started to think, like, why does the verse say, once you've committed adultery, once you've lusted after her, you've committed adultery with her in your heart? It's like, because they're one and the same. Because when I am allowing this thought in my mind, it's one thing for a thought to come and you deal with it and you knock it down. That's one thing. Another thing is the girl walks by and you're like, ooh. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. Like, I like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Why is it a problem? It's a problem because you are telling God in that moment, you're ignoring the conviction of his word, and you're telling God in that moment, what you have told me is not important. I don't have the space in my heart and in my mind for you, God, or for my wife. I only have the space and the attention for this woman. I choose that woman that is walking in front of me. I choose her body. I choose my desire for her over you, God, over your presence, and over my wife. They don't matter. You don't matter. The only thing that matters is me and this woman in this moment. And this woman don't even know who the hell you are. But you have chosen her over intimacy with God and your spouse. So you've kicked your family out, God and your wife, and you've entered this other being into your space. That's the adultery. That's the problem with that. And so just kind of going off of that is we have to ask ourselves, why do I struggle so hard in that area? What is it inside of me? What has happened in my past? Where is the neglect that I experienced? Where is the lack of identity that I experienced? The lack of peace that I experienced? That I had to go and seek these other things to bring fullness to me? Why did I only feel joy when I was drunk, when I was high, when I was sleeping around, when I was in the pursuit of a woman? Why was that the only time where I felt like there was some kind of purpose in my life? Those are the questions you have to begin to ask yourself. It's one thing to get into a church, a congregation, a faith, a way of life, and just be like, I'm not gonna sin anymore. That's fine. That's fine. But that doesn't get to the root. And that doesn't take it out of your heart and out of your mind. To begin to deal with your emptiness, with your lack of identity, with your hurts from your abandonment, from being abandoned as a child, from your hurts from being hurt from a relationship, from illnesses, from all the different things that you have in your life. Though that is when you begin to heal and actually change. Not just, I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm just going to be, that you become robotic, religious, but it's not out of your heart. You know how many people I've seen? I would say I've seen people that are in a faith, but are still struggling so bad, so hard with certain areas of their life. And this is not a judgment thing. This is a bring it to light thing. Yeah. This is a revelation thing. I'm not saying like I'm bringing I'm just saying like for you to begin to start to bring revelation to your life and understanding of why do I think the way that I think? Why can't I overcome this?
Yeah. I mean, it's just the only way to really like change and like our spiritual mom says, like to mark a before and an after in your life is when you dig deep within yourself. It's funny because we always want God to do something for us, or God speak to me, or God do this, or God do that. But, you know, I heard somebody say, if you find yourself, you find God. But I think that what they're trying to say is in the sense that when you look deep within yourself and you unpack your past and you understand yourself, like you're so much more than your experiences. You're so much more than your struggles. There's people walking around feeling worthless, feeling like crap, feeling like they're not good enough, feeling depressed, anxious. You're so much more than like maybe your struggle with your sexuality.
Who are you under
exactly
all of the things that you have taken on?
Exactly. Like, who are you? Who is the real you? And I think that you have to unpack that. You really have to get to like the root and to the essence of who you really are. And then your life will start to change. It's not going to change just because you feel guilty or you feel like I have to complete this task. I got to pray, or I got to meet this standard that supposedly God has placed, right? This standard of holiness. No, you really have to just get to the reason and the root of the intention of your heart as to why you even want to know God. Why are you in a relationship with him? Why are you seeking him? Why do you want to change? Ask yourself those reasons. Like, why? Is it because you feel comfortable being in a community? Is it because you feel like your voids are being filled, being in a faith-based community or like-minded people? Like, you have to unpack yourself, and you have to like start asking yourself questions.
Yeah, something you really need to get down in your mind is that although community is important, it's great, it's amazing, this is a relationship. This is a one-on-one thing.
For sure.
Like one-on-one thing.
Yeah.
This is even like it's so one-on-one. Yes, I and God are supposed to be one, and we should be, and that's a goal. But I need one-on-one. She needs one-on-one. You need to be one-on-one with God. All this is great, but if I don't have one-on-one with God, I'm going to struggle so hard over here. And we've seen this. We've been married almost 10 years. We've been together for 16 years. We have been on roller coaster ride the whole way. We understand if God is not, if my relationship with God isn't good, we're suffering over here.
Yeah. But what's so funny?
Yeah,
Sorry. What's so funny is that most people think, oh, like God has to be the center of our marriage. Hold up. Let's go a little deeper. God has to be like the center of your existence. And I'm not even saying it to like, oh, it's so like spiritual or religious. No, really, you really have to have a relationship with God. Like it really has to be something intimate. Like there has to be some sort of weight and value, and you have to like really know him. There's no point of like doing stuff just to do them, or I'm just going to do this because, like I heard that it's a sin. No, like why? Why don't you want to do it?
And that's and the same thing that I'm saying here about the family is the same thing I'm saying about like your community, your church or whatever. It's like she can't do anything that's gonna bring me closer to God on a one-on-one basis. Yeah. She can influence. She can set a good example.
That's so good.
I can influence. I can set a good example. But I cannot take her to a room and say, get in this room and get close to God. It just it don't work like that.
Nope.
And I can't just bring her and say like, let's go worship God together. No, she needs to make a decision. I need to make a decision. She can take me to the room. She can be like, hey, can we pray? I could pray. I could just be talking.
No,
and there might not be nothing going on. Mm-hmm. Long story short is this is a super one-on-one thing. We're going to wrap up the video here. We appreciate you so much for staying to the end. Is there anything you want to wrap up with?
No, that was good. That was good. I think this video is a lot of like soul searching, man. You got to look within yourself. Search yourself out this week.
Exactly. So yeah, we didn't want to make this video too long. It's our first video. Again, if you speak Spanish or know anybody that speaks Spanish, our links are down in the description. We both have pages in Spanish where we talk about similar things. So yeah, we appreciate you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, share it, do all the things that all the people say you should do. All right.
On YouTube
or whatever it is. So anyways, God bless you guys. We hope to see you again soon, and take care.